and we are now live. That took a wee bit of a hang there. Good afternoon. My name's Kevin Graham, and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. And today I'm joined by Quinny from the Celts are here. Quinny, how are you getting on today, man?
I'm very good, Kev. Good to see you. We're in high spirits, walking on sunshine and all that.
Definitely. And everybody will be going, where's Paul and JP? Where are they? So we'll need to have a music chat before the end of the day just to keep those who tune in for music occupied. We need to give them their fix. We need to give them their fix actually of music. Then again, we might not. We might just talk about the magnificent Celtic. Aye, first things first, before we get into last night, I would just want to say I met an Acsom viewer last night called Phil, and he was very complimentary about us, and he put me on his phone to his wife because seemingly I gave them the funniest thing that they've ever seen on the internet. There was one time where I was running a show myself, and I do think somebody eventually came in. I don't think I was meant to be on myself, but somebody eventually came in, and seemingly I says, and I can't really remember saying this, Quinny, but seemingly I says bringing on James Forrest was like adding dug meat to a casserole. And the boys actually got it clipped on his phone, and I wished I could remember saying it. I wish I could remember the context, but I did actually say it, and he did show me it, and his wife says that I did say it as well. So he says it's one of the funniest things he's ever seen on the internet. So thank you very much, Phil. So I didn't care about that. So after the nonsense of the transfer window, right? It was good last night. It was good last night. I was standing there waiting on the supporters bus, and you're talking to your pals, and I'm going with my daughter and stuff like that, and it doesn't matter the nonsense that happens it doesn't matter the nonsense like with actually going to the games. They're never going to take away you going to the games, going to the games with your mates, going to your games with your family and all of that. That's the best thing about watching Celtic. It's a community in that. And last night was great to just get back to watching football. We can't do nothing to the summer. There's a waste of time even talking about it. We know that we can't get transfers done. We know that we're horrible and we know that we're not very good at that. But it was just good to get back on the park, good to be on the bus, going to the football with your mates, talking about all the sort of nonsense that wasn't. We went for about 5 minutes. We should have signed a striker. Then we moved on to something else because we can't keep on going across and crossing it. We ended up talking about, I sit with a load of the older boys, and I'm one of the only ones that's no divorced. All the rest of them are divorced, and a couple of them are in their late 50s and they're now getting new girlfriends. And we were just deciding like what kind of psychopaths would actually go out with these guys at that age, And judging based some of the stories they were telling us, I think that there could be some court orders getting took out very, very soon. Anyway, back to the football. Getting back to us watching games of football, and we were sensational last night, Quinny. No argument about that.
It was great watching. I thought, you know, like the game was. It was what we normally expect in these domestic games when you're previewing it. You're kind of sizing us up versus the opposition. You think, we should, put a fair few past in. This guy's on form. This is looking good. If this guy starts, I fancy him to come on to a little bit. And it just felt like one of those nights. Let's see when you look at the goals, the way some of them went in. I'm thinking about Dyson's first, maybe Eda's as well. There's a few games where those chances are actually just, they do happen, but they don't quite go in. Like they hit the side net in, or the referee gives some sort of stupid foul that's not a foul. Or sometimes the goalkeeper just pulls off mad heroics. But it just felt like one of those nights where everything just kind of fell into place as it should, almost right off the training ground in some cases, where the switches of play and the passing lanes that they were opening up for themselves.
It was really good. It was the energy that we started off with. The energy was good right away. There was a moment in about the first 30 seconds when Engels chased the ball, went out the park, and he threw the ball back in quick, and you go, right, we're up for this. There's a wee feeling of revenge mission here after Dens Park. There's a wee feeling this is not going to happen to us again, and we're going to step up here. a very, very strong side. No arguments about the 11, eh? No arguments about that 11.
It was surprising Jota got the start, eh? I think that kind of got a lot of
that was
attention.
probably the only thing, eh? After maybe Rodgers was just winding us up, saying that he's no fit. Maybe that was just the thing. But I was surprising that he got the start. That was only one, eh? Him and Kuhn were a wee bit. It could have been either or. But how good is Jota? How good is Jota?
It was great to see him back. It was like it was as if he's never been gone with that sort of performance. I know he also got the goal in the last match, but this one was, it was just a throwback, it was just like he'd never been away, cutting in on the left, dinking one to the back post for Dyson. It's like, what year is it again? One of those ones. And I thought he was great. Dyson, for me, was like the real standout on the day, because he played all across the front three as well. And Dyson's been a lot of the topic, hasn't he? Post transfer window of what is going to be next for him, or what's going to be next with the front three with as it sits at the moment, because we're all salivating at the thought of Jota on the left, Kuhn on the right, especially with what we've seen last night. Imagine you had both of them on the pitch at the same time. It'd have been could have been 10, like the way they were carving them open. And Dyson we know is undroppable, so it's like there's a weird kind of paradigm there now with the front three, isn't there?
There is. It was something that Liam says on Tuesday. He said, do you imagine a front three of Kuhn, Dyson and Jota? That's frightening, amount of frightening pace. You have to have a look at it, and we'll maybe touch on the transfer window, even though I didn't want to, because I think it's been done enough. We need to move on. We've got what we've got, and that's it to the summer. I do think when you have a look at the wingers and you see Kuhn and Jota, and even James Forrest, then you've got the drop off to Palma and Yang, and obviously Palma's the one in the club anymore. It's like one of the things, Quinny, when you get up after you've had a few pints the night before and you go down the stairs, and the only thing you've got in the house is vegan sausage. That's what Yang and Palma were like. They were like vegan sausage, where like Kuhn and Jota are the real deal. They're the real square sausage. They're the real thick Aberdeen Angus steak sausage. Yeah. And you have to wonder why the scouts even thought that trying to replace Jota with Palma and Yang was a good thing.
Well, yeah, it definitely does make you scratch your head when you think about it in that context, because like the drop off has been pretty mega. I do think the wings overall has been, again, it's just one of those areas where it feels like we've always been kind of harping on for one more, regardless of how many we've had. And it used to be a bit of a trope, a bit of a meme, didn't it, about having 5,000 wingers at the club and none of them breaking through or getting a chance or whatever. So it's nothing. It's something we've never really cracked in that sense of having a good like second string or a good kind of underbelly at the squad, where even if it's young guys like the Vatas of this world and whatever that are, if you had to play them in a worst case scenario, are kind of nippy. So you have felt that drop down from the real McCoy to the knockoff, as it were, in your vegan analogy, which I love. But again, like I kind of said it in my preview with Jota, like I can't remember when or where, but for one of the games, this one or the last one, but like Jota is primo, isn't he? He is like on that wing. It's a different thing because Maeda's been on the left scoring goals, making assists, and Rodgers is quick to highlight and praise that. And he was great on the wide right for obviously a lot of this game. But Dyson is not a winger the same way Jota's a winger. Like there's a lot of like fear that he just puts into the team, and it's just like Dyson has a bit of that, but I think a lot of teams in Scotland are content with dealing with Dyson in the wing. They'll have a plan for it and they'll deal with whatever happens. But with Jota and subsequently Kuhn on the other side as well, it's the same thing where, good luck planning for that. Like once he's on the ball and he's dancing, it's hard to stop.
There's one thing last night when Jota was doing the wee step overs and he was taking the man to the byline and he was cutting inside and he was really had the tricks, he had the skill, and he was doing the wee jinks and the flicks and that. And I'm going like that. I'm like, I hope Kuhn's watching this. Come on, mate, you've got to outdo this. You've got to outdo him now. You've been the star man for 6 months. Now we've got another wee guy. It's maybe it's at your level. You've got to actually start outdoing him, and he comes on and bangs in that 6. You go, well, maybe Michael Stewart is right. Did you read Michael Stewart's comments this morning? Michael Stewart sort of doubled doubled down on the contradiction. He says Celtic are stronger in the wings areas now, and that'll compensate for the loss of Kyogo.
Well, on Celtic here, that's a topic of conversation I've been kind of wrestling with. Is like, if you do really lay it out, is the front line actually weaker? Now, I don't think there's a strong argument for it certainly being like stronger or even being markedly stronger, but like I think there's a fair, like you seen it last night, the front three, no matter what the combination was, like it just felt way more synchronized, way more joined up. Normally Kyogo is like an isolated island of a man that gets two touches and one of them is a sitter, and then we're subbing him off in the 60th minute or something. And Maeda, like, as much as he didn't have many actions in the game, obviously got his goal, which was fantastic. He made that chance himself as well with a nice, kind of, to use Brendan's buzzwords from last week, penetrating run. But I'm maybe inclined to believe that, like, it's not weaker without Kyogo at the very least.
I think where we are weaker, and I think this is the kind of argument of where we've had the way I framed the argument is this: we've lost the most iconic striker since Larsson. I've said the word iconic there for a reason. I've said iconic, right? And there's a massive hole in that squad because he's not there, because what he's done for the last 2 to 3 years, right? And I think that's, if we had lost a third choice striker, I think everybody wouldn't have been that bothered. But the reason is we've lost the iconic striker, right? And now we are one hammy, a bad injury, suspension away for looking weak in the central striker area. But when we've got all the options available to us over the front four, and like Jota, Kuhn, Dyson, and Maeda, we've got enough. If they're all fully fit, that's no the reason not to actually make a statement signing. Not a reason whatsoever. But when you looked at that last night, you go, we've got enough options there. And that was one of the things that folk got in the squad is weaker. Yes, we're weaker because we've lost that iconic man. That's why we are weaker coming out this window. But then we just create other heroes. We just create other heroes. And Dyson, what a season that man's having. What an absolute season he's absolutely having. We just create other heroes. You look at Jota. He came back last night to a hero's welcome. Yes, I still believe that we should have made a statement signing. You're losing an iconic striker. We should have brought in a guy who's going to be here for the next 2.5 to 3 years, and we should have went that to him. You've got 6 months to bed in here. We're 13 points clear in the league. We've got a game against Bayern Munich. You've got 6 months. Bed yourself in, get yourself involved in the culture of this club. Then you kick on next season. And I think that's that. And I think that's where it's missed. I think that's what we've really missed. And we're not signing that striker.
I think Brendan was quite clever as well in his comments, very similar to yours as well. I think Brendan went a step further, but from icon to legend, where he does kind of highlight like the value lost in Kyogo in the squad. And I definitely agree. Like, Kyogo is brilliant and he will be missed, no two ways about it. And it is, I don't know if negligence is quite the word. You don't know how everything's kind of panned out, but it is very much unsatisfactory to not replace him directly in the transfer window because we are doing so well on so many fronts. But like there's some bite back in the chat with what I'm saying as well in terms of like the subs or whatever. But it's going back to the vegan sausage roll thing. Like, and I know Forrest when fit is a wing option as well, right? But Forrest is fine, right? And I'm a big Forrest fan, always kind of have been throughout the kind of ups and downs over the last 5 or 6 years. But he has like the Ralston kind of level that comes on from the bench or comes in to rotate for like 10, 12 matches a season in the league or whatever. But he is going to score goals. He's going to put in a great shift. He's going to look a level above the opposition or whatever. But if you take and so you've got that as like the first winger off the bench, and then it's Yang, and obviously Palmer's gone and whatever now. And then you had the situation where it was Kyogo and Maeda. And really for the large part of this season, neither one of them was getting a tune, really. So they're both kind of half not working. Whereas now, like, whatever two wingers you start with, the first one that's coming off the bench, like we seen last night with Kuhn, is way more effective to the game. And with Dyson playing all across the front line, like he did last night and over the last game as well, like, I think, I don't think the main thing there is Kenny's coming on for Maeda, is what you're thinking there. That's a huge downgrade. Is that worse, but than Jota to Yang? or Kun to Yang, I beg your pardon, or Dyson to Yang. I'm not sure.
What I would maybe argue with that, with Kenny, is that the fact is, as Rodgers says himself, as Brendan says himself, the guys who saw him before, since then he went to Shamrock and came back, have went, he's improved vastly. So I think there's room to improve there. I think the coaching staff have got room to improve. Whereas somebody like Yang and Apalma, I think their race has been run. And I think the coaching staff have made up their minds. Now, you have to have a look at it. Johnny Kenny would have been in St Mirren if we would have brought in a striker. And that shows that the club say that there's still a wee bit of development there. When he came on last night, he got himself into some good spaces. I thought he just needs to maybe be told, just go and relax, mate. Let the game come to you. Didn't try to force things. Didn't try too hard. And I think that's what was up with Maeda in the games when he went in that run of foot. Stop trying too hard. It's going to come to you. Just keep on playing your games. And Kenny's going to need to learn that. He's got a good turn of pace about him. He looks a decent enough finisher, and he knows where he was. There was one point in the second half when we broke, and him and Dyson broke up the park, and Dyson got in front of him. And Kenny, instead of going in between the frames of the goals, actually hung back so Dyson could give him an easy pass, and he ended up putting it by the post. And I'm going, get yourself in the 6-yard box. Let Dyson put that across the front of goal for you. It was almost as if, for me, he thought about it too much, as if to go, I need to make sure I get this ball, instead of going, no, I'm going to need to actually go into that 6-yard box. And that's going to come, Quinny. It's got to come for him.
Yeah. And I think, like, I don't think it's a terrible situation to have somebody like Kenny, maybe kind of, especially with the situation we're actually in at the moment with the league and all the rest of it. And I'm not too sure like it would really have much of an impact on the Bayern Munich game with the forwards that we do have, once we've got everyone registered and ready to go. So, like, yeah, all things being equal, like, and again, like, Johnny Kenny is obviously not proper, like, a youth product or whatever of the club, because we bought him when he was young and he's just been kind of brought into the fold. But it's good that there's like that availability. Daniel Cummings is still in the building. I'm not really too sure what his actual contract situation is right now. But as much as like I'm definitely on board with Rodgers in terms of like, really hold the bar on them, and you need to be good enough to play kind of thing. But there also does need to be opportunity. There does need to be a space on the bench in the squad in the match plan where, like has often been mentioned on here, like if you are 6-0 up, like you can just put Johnny Kenny on or Daniel Cummins or something like that if they make the bar, obviously. But I think some of us have seen before, like even if there was someone that looked like previously like the Vatas and the Kellys and whatever, there wasn't really a space for them to even have a sniff at it. And that's maybe a little bit of the problem that we have with bringing players through, is there's not even there's 2 spots on the bench going every week because who knows who's going to get it, kind of thing. So being in this position, like, imagine we did get an our striker and he was all hunky-dory and he was great. Johnny Kenny could go somewhere else, like you say. And if you got like 10 to 12 goals somewhere else in the division, there would definitely be a case for like, is this a guy that could be halfway useful? And then you maybe need to deal with that further down the road. Whereas now you'll find out if he's good enough or if he can make that bridge. Kind of similar to Yang. Like Yang's had a swim in the deep end pal situation for the last 2 months.
I has.
And Johnny Kenny's going to get one of them now, probably.
I appreciate James Forrest really more now.
Yeah.
Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I didn't say that as a slight on Yang whatsoever. It's just there's levels in the squad, and that's it. I'm going to annoy Jungle Lion and bring up Kaiser as the first comment. Kaiser Cummins signed a pre-contract. I don't think he'll play again. I think Cummins will only get a sniff if there's an injury crisis, and touch wood there will only be.
Fair enough.
Well, let's talk about the goals. We've scored the first one in 18 minutes, penalty kick. I'm in that area of the ground, and when the whistle blew, I thought he was going to give a penalty because it was quite clear to me where the free kick had came from. Why the ref, Colin Stephen, never actually gave that and gave a free kick to Dundee, then had to go to VAR, is absolutely beyond me. It is really, really beyond me. And the other thing is beyond me, why Trusty wasn't claiming for it when he actually got up as well. Because when you see it on the TV, it's worse, Quinny. It's a Stonewall penalty kick. The other thing that you probably wouldn't have seen with you watching at home, the goalkeeper, Trevor Carson, stood on the penalty spot and was kicking lumps at it for the minute and a half while we were at VAR. He was standing on the penalty spot, rubbing his studs up and down, kicking it and everything, and not one Celtic player went over. But quite glad Engels took a decent penalty kick. But for me, it was a stone waller. But you've got to have a look at the referee, why the referee never gave it as right away.
I've got the image on my other screen here, and he is like, it looks like he's looking right at it for the most part as well on the replay, you know, which is just comical. Even in the VAR replay, you see him, he's like 6 yards away from it or something, you know, and he's staring right at it. So it does beg our belief. And that's the sort of thing VAR should be in for, you know, is eliminating, you know, and I normally swear when I'm talking about this on one of my own channels, but eliminate the PISS out of decisions and out of refereeing, you know, where it is just like, those things normally don't get given for the most part, you know, like if you're in a situation without VAR because the ref's made the free kick and what you're going to do about it, everyone moves on from it because it's played to the whistle, isn't it? That's the sort of thing that, again, like VAR is there for, to catch just the nonsense. Like, how can the ref miss that? You know, Trusty hasn't decked him. The guy's fell on the deck because he's trying to wrestle him and Trusty's broke away from him. He's lost his balance or whatever, you know, and again, the ref's looking right at it. It's mental.
Henrik McLarsson, it's the very definition of clear and obvious. It was, and as soon as it came up on the big screen, it was getting checked. I says to my daughter, I went, that's a penalty. I says, there's a penalty every day of the week. I says, there's no debate here. He shouldn't even been asked to go and look at the screen. Went, it's a penalty kick. That's what you need to give. Engels done well again. I think that's 4 goals he scored against Dundee now. I love this. It's 3 penalties and the shot for the edge of the box. I loved his interview after the game last week when he says even his teammates are now taking the mickey at him that he only scores penalty kicks. I thought that was quite good as well. It's not just folk in the comments that take the mickey at him for about scoring penalties, that his own teammates are doing it as well. It was the same another week there when Callum McGregor actually says to them, "Is your dad voting for you for man of the match?" I did find that it shows you the sort of banter that you've maybe got in the squad there, that they've actually got that. I think they do read a wee bit of social media and they start taking the mick at each other with stuff like that. The second goal, if it's Taylor to either sort of kind of scuffs the shot. He goes with his right foot, a wee kind of half toe poke. Carson makes the save. The ball rebounds back. Everybody in the stadium held their breath because they thought Jota was going to put it in the back of the net. Didn't happen. Rebounds back. Bagida fair finish with his right foot again and into the roof of the net. The big man stood up in the last 4 games. That goal against Young Boys has done him the world of good. Really, that wee bit of luck that he had there where he realised this is just let it flow, let it naturally happen. That's 4 in 3 games for the big fella, and his movement was really good last night as well. He's got a bit of pace for a big fella. Again, that's a massive cliche, but he has. He just seems a bit more relaxed, and he was a handful all night for the Dundee back line last night. And again, I'm really, really pleased. Strikers want goals, and he's scoring.
I was just going to say on the Engels, when I went to double check it there, he's scored those goals against Dundee, but he's never done anything against Dundee United. So I just thought I'd check that one out. But no, I totally agree.
Maybe he's got a soft spot for Dundee United. Maybe he had them. Maybe he was Sabutio team, or he played them on FIFA or something like that. He liked the orange and black kit. Who knows?
Goes easy on them. But I was looking at Ida's numbers there in terms of minutes, because I very much agree, and I think like you can see there's a bit of a weight off his shoulders. You know, the way I've kind of said it before is kind of like, before when it was him and Kyogo, a big part of probably his thinking will be keeping the manager happy, doing everything the coaching staff are telling him, play the role, play the system, don't do anything out of place that would upset him, because you need to get that jersey, you need to do better than Kyogo. And now that he's kind of out the frame, he's kind of in the driver's seat a little bit, where he knows he's going to be starting and he can be like, I'm playing this game. Like, you know, the last 3 matches he's been substituted on, 79, 79 and 72 last night. Previous to that, if he has ever started, he's only got past his 60, a minute number beginning with not something above 6 once. You know, it's always subbed off 63, 61, 65, that sort of thing. One time he went on to do 90 minutes is probably the easier way of saying what I tried to say a second ago. So it's a huge increase to him because he knows like it's not like, oh, if I miss a chance, I'm getting hooked, or it doesn't matter what I do, I'm getting hooked at 63 minutes kind of thing. So I think like you can see he's just kind of coming into his own, getting into his comfort level a little bit more. Similar to when he arrived, because when he arrived, he didn't have any of that pressure on like getting into the team or being ahead of Kyogo. It was, I'm coming up here and I'll be levels above it and I'll do my best. So it's like I say, I find it hard to say we're weaker up front now. Like I really do. Like it's for me at the very minimum, it's like net zero. You know, that's kind of the way we've been chatting about it over at my bit. But yeah, I thought Ida was brilliant, and the second goal was well deserved, similar to the first Villa goal, where it's like just a fox in the box.
Natural, aye, natural. Yeah. The other thing that I found bizarre was that they were going for offside, and when they say they're getting checked for offside, and I'm going, wait a minute, the guy tried to tackle him, came for the byline. There was a boy behind him. He was definitely not offside when Taylor put the ball through because the guy was a yard in front of him, and it was a great ball by Taylor. And I'm going, what are they checking for offside for? I do not believe. Aye, it was. It's one of the things, eh? Getting at half time 2-0, I'm talking to the boys round about me, and I'm going like that's well deserved. That is a true reflection of the game because Dundee hadn't really laid a glove on us at that point. I thought the back line was handling their front too well. It's great. It's great watching Simon Murray go mental at his teammates for no pressing. It is hilarious. His arms are in the air. He's screaming and he's shouting, and he just looks like a wee ginger whirlwind, just gone mental at his teammates for no pressing. He never got. I mean, he troubled Trusty at Dens Park, but there was no danger that was happening last night.
No, and again, like I don't really feel that Dundee really gave much of a threat in that way. You know, like normally Simon Murray and whoever's up there with him, like you get a shot or two away, there's a counter attack where you're like, oh, they got close there, maybe they even score. But last night there was not really an ounce of that, really. It'd be interesting to hear your take on this being at the game, right? But from watching it on the telly, it felt like certainly like the first half an hour, they were trying to go back after Trusty again after getting into his head at the last game. And it did feel that they were going after him a bit. I felt he dealt with it well enough.
You could see that Murray was on him, then sort of moved. Then they put the other guy who scored the first goal against us at Dens Park, who had also scored against Rangers the week previous. Then they put him on him, and he got caught once down the touchline. But then I think that was a foul. I think the boy was hanging on to him. There was a wee bit of a wrestling match. He got on the wrong side that once, but no, they did try to target him. What I found was quite no weird, but they seem to give up the left-hand side to Celtic, to Taylor and Jota. Everything in that first half went down that left-hand side. And they didn't even try to double up on Jota at times. The cover wasn't there. And I thought Dundee looked a bit lopsided, which was great for us. Absolutely fantastic for us. But everything that we done on the first half went down the left-hand side, which is fine, which is brilliant. Sometimes you find that happens in games that it all goes down one side, eh? But I think Jota needed that last night, and he had a decent run out. 2-0 at half time. Beginning in the second half, and you're beginning to look at get the third goal, then start making the subs because we've got Raith Rovers and we've got Bayern Munich, and we'll have got to rotate the squad. Jota then provides a delicious assist. An absolutely brilliant assist. He gets the ball on the left-hand side, just in front of the main stand. There's a wee couple of step-overs, and there's a great ball to the back post, and Dyson's charging in there with diving header into the back of the net. Absolutely brilliant goal, and what became a trail of brilliant goals.
Yeah. And Dyson's scoring more and more goals like that resemble like the Yokohama highlight reels people would have watched on his arrival when he was top scorer in the J League. He loves those ghosting in, breaking in, because again, like you heard in the analysis from, again, it depends on where you were watching it, but I caught it on Celtic TV. They were talking about how like he has been on the outside of the defence and then come back into, and that is like a pet peeve of mine. I call that the Anthony Stokeses normally, where you're hiding behind the defenders waiting for the cross to get to you rather than getting in front of them. But it eats them up. He's been scoring lovely goals like that now for a couple of weeks. Obviously, top scorer at the club now. But I was going to say something different on the left-hand side for me. Like a lot of the joy we had out there and a lot of the highlight reel stuff we've seen from Jota, it was like a lot of it was link-up play with Hatate. And Hatate's definitely became a better player in Jota's absence. And you maybe feel that, and again, they have a relationship. They've already played with each other and all the rest of it seems, it's basically picking up where they left off for the large part. And it did feel that, like, that left-hand side, like you say, all the joy was coming there. Hatate was all over the place, looking good, picking out nice little tricks and flicks and making openings. And Taylor did really well up that side as well, being that kind of wild card player, just showing up on the edge of the box and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Aye, it's Jota says in the post-match, and again, another hilarious interview with Dyson. Dyson's a man of not many words.
Or in English.
In English. But Jota says, I know the runs that Dyson makes. I knew where he was going to be. I didn't really need to I didn't really need to think about it when I put that ball on because I knew that's where he would be. Again, Jota's also played with Taylor. He's also played with Hatate. He's probably lucky that the 9 players that are still there, the majority of them are still in the first team. But that, I noticed in the midfield, you're more a tactical man than me. I noticed in the midfield rotated quite a bit, where Engels appeared on the left, Hatate would appear on the right, and it seemed very fluid. The way that the midfield three were playing, there was not one sitting at one point, that they were all swapping round about. There was times when Engels, of course, on the left hand side, Hatate on the right, and I think we're at the best when we're like that, when the midfield three are working closer together. And the games where we've been poor, for me, you can actually see the midfield three haven't been that close together, haven't been working together, and they're actually quite wide apart and they're very, very static. That wasn't the case last night, and I think it suits the technical abilities of the midfielders that we've got when they are that fluid.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I quite enjoyed the midfield. I know we've kind of got into the second half, but in the first half, looking back at it in hindsight, McGregor must have known the plan for the match, because like McGregor in the first half popped up in right wing, was putting in some balls, was popping up on the left outside of the box, trying to get some shots and passings away. And he was a bit more direct through the middle than what we normally see him. We normally see him as that kind of commander player just in front of the centre backs and controlling the team around. But he was nipping on the ball, off the ball, into different spaces. And like you say, between him, Hatate and Engels, there was just more of that kind of that cycle, of different ones popping up in different spaces. And it was great because, like, I think in the games we've seen Hatate not play, we see Engels more on the left and McKeown's played on the right. And for me, they're some of the best games I've seen for Engels, coming in on that right foot and kind of delivering with that kind of angle of attack. So it's good to see that they're trying to come up with solutions so that it doesn't really matter, like, that Hatate's on that side or whatever, they can still, like, get the most out of everyone. And yeah, the midfield, like, that was definitely like the Bayern Munich warm-up midfield, wasn't it?
That was our best midfield at the start of the season. It was when we were in that purple patch where everybody was talking about, oh, we could go invincible, this and that. That was a midfield three. And they did fall away, but that's to be expected. That's a football season when you're playing 60 games. Players are going to drop off and come back into form. But I think we see this with Brendan Rodgers' team, Quinny, that we have sticky spells, November, December, January. Then by the time you get to mid-February, even though it's early February now, mid-February, March, they pick it up again. There seems to be a boost, hits the squad and they hit that running. Then all of a sudden the form comes back, the play comes back. It's almost as if that we play our way through the lull. And maybe it's to do with the pitches, maybe it's to do with the number of games that we actually play. But we always have a blip. When you look at last season, December was absolutely horrific. Then we didn't pick it up until March. And you look at that, I don't think there's much argument now that's our strongest midfield three.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much argument now. I think we were arguing about it maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. But when push comes to shove, that is your strongest midfield three. And I think Rodgers sees it that way as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're getting, like, as you say, I think it feels like peak form Hatate now, the way he was running around last night, like, you just, even if he does give the ball away or lose it, the ball goes out for a goal kick or whatever, like, you see what's going on. It's not like ill-fated or like he's not concentrating or it's just tried some sort of stupid flick for no reason or anything like that. Not that he's overly criminal of that, but it, has been known to do it. But Engels, it feels like it feels like he's getting better, like genuinely better, like every game now at the moment, And the range of passing he's got, that's his USP, isn't it? That's his weapon.
It is. It is unbelievable. You're probably better than me at this because you're a bit of a stats man. I sometimes get frustrated with Engels that he doesn't carry the ball enough. But was that always in his USP? Was it when we had a look at him, or because sometimes I just want him to turn and use that big, wide, stretchy legs that he's got just to drive the ball up the pitch or come inside, and he doesn't seem to do it. And I don't know whether he's been told not to do it or he's just never been that type of player.
Yeah, carries isn't something I normally pay much attention to, just for the stats I normally look at. So that's not one I can give you a quick answer on. But I think like it's the problem we had when we signed them in some ways, like maybe not for the club because you always you always give them the benefit of the doubt they know more than us just because of computers and technology and footage and stuff, But it was like some people were saying he should be a defensive mid. Some people were like, oh, he played attacking mid for Olsberg for a few games. Maybe he's an actual like just an O'Reilly type again. He's even played obviously right back at the last team or whatever. So I think there was a little bit of grey around, like if we were to pigeonhole him, where does he kind of closely fit? But I think it's clear to see whenever you have watched him that he does have a great engine. Like he does get around the pitch quite well for a guy that's not quick. Like he's always in and around where the ball's at. And I think like in the stages he's had so far where he's not been that great, he's been kind of like anonymous. If you know what I mean, like the matches where I've left it thinking he did nothing today, like he has actually kind of done nothing. It's not that he's been bad or things haven't came off. It's just, it's just nothing. Like and nothing happened. It's not the way of putting it really. Whereas now it's just like he's just ever present. So I think it's one of those ones where it's the style of play. Like I heard you actually, I meant to say this to you, but I heard you on a show here last week, maybe saying that you looked at the Newcastle midfield after we were chatting about it. And Engels is kind of in that mold where it's like he's not going to go from box to box, but like he's always around play, and he'll just like, where's my pals? What are they doing? What should I be doing? And kind of deal with it from there. And the thing that does stand him out, but I think, and it's only really became over apparent in the last month or two, I would say, is that range of passing, because like when you see it, especially when you go to games, I don't get to as many as I'd like, but still, it's clean, it's long distance, there's great vision on it. And when you've got a front three that have got great first touches, that you can really just get across the pitch in a heartbeat. Which against a team like Bayern Munich, perhaps, or something, some other opposition of that kind of caliber, that's just a fantastic route to go to have.
I'm going to bring up a comment with Colin Bean there before we talk about the fourth goal and an Engels pass. A pass ball moves faster than him carrying it, so with his range of passing, it makes sense for Engels to do this, right? There is a quote from Michel Platini when somebody asked Michel Platini, why do you not run with the ball? And he says, the ball moves quicker than what I can do. That's why I pass it. So that's, if it's good enough for Michel Platini, it's good enough for Arne Engels and me and anybody else who doesn't know anything about football. I'm going to read this out. I noticed there was a post on Blue Sky last night from a guy called Dr. Kyogo. And he says, in 75 minutes of football, Jota has equalled Yang's goals and assists in 800 minutes of appearances this season. That's one goal and one assist. So maybe, I don't know if that's true. I just thought I found it quite funny. In the Yang narrative. So I just thought I'd read it out. Fourth goal. Jota, absolutely fantastic down at the corner. Brings the ball out there, and we beat the press. Jota to Kalmak to Alistair Johnson and to Arne Engels. Arne Engels tries to play this ball quite a lot. It's the curler which goes round either the fullback or the centre half, which makes them think that they're going to get it. Then they realise that they're not going to get it. It's a bend. It's a fantastic ball to see when you're actually behind it. He done it on Sunday at Motherwell for Jota's goal when he played the ball to Maeda. Was absolutely fantastic. And the ball last night again was just incredible. It's took that guy out. Again, the full, I can't remember, I think it was the fullback, thinks he's getting it. Then he realised, no, I'm not. That's just that couple of centimetres too far in front of me. By that point, he's out the game. Dyson's running through on goal. And I'm not going to lie, I never expected him to chip the goalkeeper. I never expected him to even try to. attempt to chip the goalkeeper from there. But my God, what a finish! What an absolute finish!
Genuinely shocking, wasn't it? In like so many ways, like disbelief. I've honestly, I celebrate every goal like it's a cup final effort. Don't get me wrong, but that was like off your feet, on your feet, off your seat effort. Even if you were at home watching it, like wow, take a bow. And doesn't he just deserve it for all the ones he's put into Rosie and into the top tier? You know, like where he's had good chances, he's maybe just not quite taken it, not had the composure or whatever. But that was honestly wildly fantastic, perfect kind of height, and it's like audacious to chip Carson as well, because Trevor No Knees Carson isn't actually that far off his line, really. Like it's quite a narrow, like it's getting it through a post box, basically. You know what I mean? There's not much of a goal to actually hit on that. So it's just absolutely wild that he pulled it off. And on that kind of press resistance thing that happens with Jota at the beginning, before he gets to McGregor, it comes to Hatate, and he's got like 3 of them at his back. And he rolls the 3 of them before McGregor gets it and opens the pitch up. And again, like that's just another, like again, just to add, give Hatate his flowers on that one, because he was doing that kind of thing all night, just bring players towards them and get the ball away to somebody else and just open up some space. And the whole thing, like I said in the earlier part of the show, like felt so much of the night was just perfect off the training ground, you know, like well rehearsed, well synchronized. Everyone knows the range of passing, everyone knows the runs, the speed, the timing, and it was all just absolutely just coming off. The boy Donnelly almost gets a meaningful touch to it before it gets to Dyson, but it felt that was a wee bit kind of just desserts, because he was the guy that was messing with Trusty in the last game, and he was like culpable for a few of those kind of things, just being out of distance for him, just being out of reach. So a wee bit of karma maybe coming back. Although it did seem with the goal he scored against us, he didn't celebrate it. He's maybe a Hoops fan himself, so maybe he wasn't too displeased to be a wee bit short to it once in a while.
I'm not into that. Like, look, if you've played for us and fine, but if you just support us, no, you should be celebrating, because it's your job. It's what you're there for. He's a defender. He might not score many more goals. It could be like so, and it was to put them 3-2 up as well. So it should. I mean, there should have been a bit of. But fair play. If he's in the squirrel singing rebel songs in them, that's up to him. I mean, that's
I just got a wee flashback just now. Do you remember when Stuart Finlay scored against us for Kilmarnock? I can't remember what it was or what happened, if they made it to win the match or draw it or whatever. But I remember he scored like a header from a free kick or a corner, and he celebrated like he'd never played for us ever. You know, he went for it.
Craig
just had a wee flashback to that just now. Yeah, Craig Beattie style.
Craig Beattie as well. That's put me in a bad mood thinking about that. That semi-final defeat.
Sorry, bud.
No, it's fine, Engels scores the 5th, takes a wee nick, but you want your midfielders to kind of be shooting for the edge of the box, something I don't think that we do often enough. He seems to get into that position quite a bit. He did say himself after the game, he went, he says, I need to score more for open play, and it's something that I need to add to my game. As you say, he seems to be growing into games, and I was really, really harsh on him last week against Aston Villa. I still think that he should be embarrassed. John McGinn bumming him off the ball as he did. And I'll put it to everybody who goes, oh, John McGinn's done that to better players than Andy Engel, bigger players than Andy Engels. If that was Nicholas Raskin who had done that to Engels, he wouldn't have been so... I don't think he would have been so lax on him. That's what I just think. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong, but that's just what I actually think.
Fair enough. I put that straight down to like experience. Like McGinn is like the wily veteran in that situation, shoulder to shoulder on the counter attack. He knows like, because Engels has got the better position. Like he's goal side of McGinn on that one before, but McGinn knows in that situation that he's got a run behind him, and he doesn't actually need to pass the ball forward. He just needs to give the ball to somebody else, and it's just a bit of experience where he just puts the brakes on, puts the rear end on them, you know, and then it's a square ball. It's not even a pure cutting pass. It's just he knows that he just knows somebody's behind him, and he can just get it off to somebody else. Platini style, the ball can move to somebody else, you know.
It doesn't need to be a cutting pass, because at that point Trusty's gone, I'm overrun here. Like it's only Trusty's gone, well, what do you want me to do? I can't get that ball. I can't
Yeah.
cover all of them, So, aye, look, the big man's doing really well. I'm going to say another thing last night. I thought I thought Engels was close to being man of the match. I really did. And he really stepped up once McGregor went off. I thought his game went up a level when McGregor went off. And I'm not going to slag Callum McGregor. I mean, we can say it, but I thought the shackles came off him a bit when McGregor went off. And he started then coming into his own, and so did Bernardo, and Atati was having a good game as well. But I just felt the dynamic in the midfield changed when McGregor went off for that on the 60 odd minute mark, and for that point, Engels was unplayable.
I was quite happy to see that Bernardo come on in his place and kind of did that role. So I think that's Bernardo's bag, is sitting in behind guys like Hatate and Engels and cleaning up the messes. But I didn't notice that watching it at home, so that might have been something you just pick up in the stadium, I guess. But I would say on that gives me vibes of like a wee bit, maybe not quite the same with the Ida Kyogo thing we mentioned before, but like we know, McGregor being the captain, being the quasi coach on the pitch, like he's kind of like a manager and an assistant manager kind of dynamic, isn't it? Where like if the manager's no in, the assistant manager now calls the shots, decides who's doing what, and all the rest of it. And if the manager's no there in that kind of context, then Engels maybe just feels there's a wee bit more license to, to play the game as it is, rather than McGregor's there, so I need to stand next to him, or he's told me to do something, or maybe a wee bit of that. I don't know.
It could be like I've picked up the wrong one there. I've changed. Gone yourself. Where did that go? Gone yourself. There, it's there. When McGregor went off, Engels had to step up. That's simple, not so complicated. He did, but it could also be due to the momentum of the game maybe changed at that point, the tiredness of Dundee, and maybe that's how it just looked. But I just got a general feeling that the midfield got another sense of life when Bernardo came on, and it was almost as if something had lifted and they felt a bit freer. It could just be that was Engels just going, right, I'm going to take control of this game and I'm going to do what I'm doing. But again, it was just if I go a lot on feelings. And I just felt there was something lifted when McGregor went off.
It's also a little bit of that Bernardo, isn't going to stray away from that position. Bernardo's going to kind of, never abandon the post, as it were. So if you aren't Engels and Hatate, like you mentioned earlier, you could see they were swapping sides and doubling up on one and all the rest of it. And if you've not got McGregor in the equation where they're cycling and rotating, you just know that Bernardo is just going to be a bit more kind of static in that case. Then maybe it does just unlock them a wee bit more to mix around.
I've probably got it completely wrong, but I just got that feeling in the stadium. And I'm sure Jim Orr and that, I wasn't at the St Johnstone game when Kilmac was he injured or rested? I can't actually remember. St Johnstone game in between Christmas and New Year. I was in Manchester. And Jim Orr says that day, he says the midfield was really, really good because there seemed to be more movement. I think there was a lot of movement last night, but again, I just got that wee feeling when McGregor went off. Look, he's irreplaceable with us just now, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking for a replacement. That's just the natural evolution of football.
I still maintain he should be playing in one of the other spots in midfield, like to maximise him personally, like especially with some of the bigger games we've got coming up, or that we will have in general, like where we do need that kind of hard-nosed, got a sniff of the danger about him, defensive midfielder, even just to partner him a bit more, even if you don't want to outright advance him into an Hatate type role or an Engels type role. So I look back at the St Johnstone game, and the starting midfield on that day, like you rightly point out, was Hatate, Bernardo, and Engels, same shape that we kind of had when McGregor came off on this one. So that's a great kind of link there. I love that. And I do think like on that day, and from like Bernardo is just much more like stays just centre the picture, whereas McGregor does have that license and that ability to pop up in different places and whatever.
He's a decent enough player, but he lacks that wee bit of the skill set that Engels and Hatate and McGregor have got. They've got that more trickery, and they can see a bit where he's just like a safe pair of hands.
Totally.
I still think we need a big bruiser in there. I think Aston Villa and Dortmund have proved that we need the physicality. Talking about physicality, you bring on Big Schloop, the Schloop song. That's easy for me to say. And he's a unit. See, the first thing he done was flatten a Dundee player, which I liked. which I really liked. And I spoke about it last week. I do think that we miss physicality, we miss pace and power. And again, it was interesting. Rodgers actually says the guy's got Premier League physicality, and you could see that when he came on. If we want to take that, I look at the Bruges team. I thought they had great physicality, and that's where we have to look. And I do think we're missing that sort of presence in the middle of the park. I think we had it with Moy. I think Moy had that Premier League physicality. I don't think any of the ones that we've got there have got it. I think Engels might be able to have it, but he sometimes seems a wee bit weak in certain situations. But when you saw Schlupp coming on last night, you're going, if you would have came on for Aston Villa, I wouldn't have been surprised, mate, with your build and your attributes. He looked a wee bit lost at times, I'm not going to lie, but he only probably arrived Tuesday night, half a training session yesterday, and he's running about and he's got guys shouting, Jeff at him all the time. He doesn't ken where he's gone. I think he could be an able deputy for Taylor. But having a look at him last night, he looked a wee bit size-wise, he looked a wee bit fish out of water, and mobility-wise. But I'm not going to judge him on chuck on, make your debut, pal, and learn folks' names as you go along.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you're saying that there, he's definitely like to the point of the match, spent more time like getting pictures with the strip on than actually playing football, probably, at that point. So fair comment. It did come across through the TV as well. The kind of the kind of fish out of water thing is probably the best way of putting it. That it was, just getting acclimatized a little bit, just getting dropped in the deep end ever so slightly. Quite an easy set, game state as it comes into it. Obviously, we're home and hosed, and it's just about getting minutes and touches and whatever. But like you say, with the attributes he brings, like it wouldn't take much for him to be really the best left back in the league, all things being equal. If you think about how impressive somebody like Owen Beck was like 2 years ago, as like a young kid at Dundee. Not saying like he's going to be like the best player, and we need to go and buy him and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, like in terms of just actual like being effective in matches, Taylor's the best left back in the league right now for me. If he was to get the shirt over Taylor, then his contributions would probably, so. He's definitely got the foundation to be like a top use player for the next 6 months.
Aye, and he's actually playing for a contract. Let's no beat about the bush here. He's playing for a contract. I mean, he probably he could go back down to England, but he's got 4 months up here to actually play his way into being handy to have round about the squad. And if he's willing to take a wage cut, I think Celtic are playing quite a fair chunk of his wages by the sounds of things. If he's willing to come under the structure, then we will just need to wait and see. What I would actually say is, I'm coming to this wee impression, right? Bear with me here. I think Greg Taylor will get his contract because we didn't sign a striker.
I'm at the point where it is just pay Taylor the money. I think, like, if he can. So again, all things again, keeping everything in realistic terms. Like, what backup left back do you really want? Do we want to go down the route of all the other tried and failed methods that we've had so far? Again, maybe there's an argument to be had here for leaving a spot like that kind of semi-open to like a young player coming through. Someone mentioned it in the chat earlier, but it looks like Adam Montgomery is going to Queen's Park on loan, which just feels mental. Like, why? At this stage, he's already been on loan in the Premier League for like 2 or 3 different stints, so that's just a bit of a weird one. But oh Jesus, I've lost my train of thought here. But with Taylor, yeah. So I think like if you kind of say if Tierney's coming back and he's like de facto number 1, and who you want in and behind that, like you want somebody that's going to like really like the performance we got from Taylor against the Aston Villas, maybe even Young Boys Zagreb, some of these teams, like if you had to play him, like if there was just no other option, I don't think that's a terrible place to be. You do want to have aspirations to have better players in the squad, I get that. But Taylor and Tierney are both the same age. And if you both get them signed onto a new contract this summer, they're genuinely never thinking about signing a left back for about 3 or 4 years, and that just means you can spend resources elsewhere, time, energy, brain space, whatever you want to think of it as, similar to right back right now. Like they don't spend any energy on right backs right now, I bet, in that recruitment department, so
no,
just get left back for that as well,
They've got Johnson tied down, and they've got Tony Ralston there who's got no interest in moving who's quite happy to sit there and be a backup, and when he's called upon, he does an able job. There's no need for us to go into the pros and cons of Tony Ralston. You get what you see with Tony, and that's it. Paddy Laverty is true here when I was talking about quite a lot of things. Paddy says you get everything wrong, Kev, and Paddy's right. Paddy is right there. Kuhn comes on a wee cameo role, things in a beauty. Again, it was his link-up play with AJ doing that side, cuts inside, and again, you were talking about Trevor Carson's been quite a big goalie. It's postage stamp. There's no that big an area to hit, and it's a peachy a goal, an absolute peachy a goal.
Yeah, big time. And it felt like Kuhn had been sitting on the bench watching everything unfold, and I wanted him to come on and play like that as well, so it was like big smile on the face as soon as that happened, because I was like, yes, wee man, that's what we're after, keep it up, set that bar higher for us, that's what we want. So yeah, like I thought it was a great goal. Just goes into the highlight reel of goals he scored kind of just like that already this year. And again, similar to the Jota thing, where like it comes into that where they're going to cut in kind of thing, and you should be able to defend it. But again, when someone is just so good at something, it doesn't matter, like they can still buy that yard, get that second ahead of you, and if they've got a window to shoot into, you'll find it.
Jota and Kuhn, you can swap them about, playing them on the both sides. Teams didn't know what they're going to do because they've got that trickery. As you say, even though Dyson's been absolutely magnificent for us, if he knocks the ball by you and you manage to get in front of him, he hasn't got that trickery. You know what Dyson's going to do, but he's just, sometimes it is really, really quite bad. He's unstoppable. You just can't stop him. He's pressing. I want to actually mention this last night. Our defensive press, counter press, as Rodgers would call it, was absolutely fantastic last night. For the whole 90 odd minutes, we were pressing that ball to get that ball back. And that's really, really good to see. I really like that, because I think that's when we're good. I think that's when we're good. Oh, Quinny's disappeared. Wonder what's happening there. I think that's really, really good. What I'll do is I'll bring up some of the comments that I've been ignoring. Not start, but I've been ignoring. Let's see. Pete McGee. Okay, Dundee are not much of an opposition, but it was their pressing that nullified the threat that they might have had. It was different level stuff. 3 players on every loose ball on wheel. I actually agree. It was one of them. Sometimes I hear this. You hear Rodgers going like that. Oh no, our counter press wasn't good enough. But I think when you see it last night, when we get that right, we destroy teams. And I think we've done that last night. Jai Connolly, Jai Larkin, when Jota tracked back, and then started that move for the third, I got flashbacks to that amazing pass Kyogo in the Ferencváros game. It was very, very similar. Engels' ball was quite similar as well. I must admit, that's a good point. Well done, big man. I don't know what cell 88 means here. Chat, son, get Kev grammed. Pete brings up another great point. Game sold out last night, but loads of empty seats. We need a sell-on scheme to get more funds into the club, more fans into the stadium as we play with such style. I completely agree with that, Pete. I think there should be some sort of scheme where season ticket holders can put their season ticket up for sale, and for fans like Quinny who can't get to the game or other non-season ticket holders can actually pick up. I'm on a supporters bus, and our season tickets are on the supporters bus. Celtic will probably take mine off, but if I'm not going to the game, then the supporters bus uses it and gives it to somebody else for a nominal fee, or sometimes we just let somebody else go to the game. So there is a sort of unofficial scheme happens in the supporters buses. That's quite a common thing that actually happens. But the club need to do so. The club need to go do something official. Jungle Lion. Sorry, mate. I think you're about the 6th or 7th comment today. Going to the games with all your mates, but going into the stadium with all your mates all together is even better. All seater nonsense. But there's a generation of guys now, Jungle Line, who have known nothing but all seater stadiums. We're lucky. There's about 8 or 9 years for the supporters bus all sit in the same area, not sit in the same row, but we all sit in the same area, so we can still have a wee bit of that banter. Celtic World Order podcast. Afternoon, lads, watching from the hospital at the moment, but that put a pile on my face, a smile on my face last night. What a performance! The first truly compete performance in a long time. Our players all looking the part. I hope you're doing well, big man, and I hope everything goes well for you in the hospital. Tony Aiken, Jota is a Wagyu burger.
I can go with that.
I can go with that. I can go with that. Quinny, what was your favourite goal last night?
Has to be Dyson's. It was just, yeah, Dyson's is one that will be replayed for years to come. I think that was a topper. Dyson's, yeah.
Dyson's. Was Dyson's goal better last night than the one in the League Cup final?
The League Cup final means a lot more, doesn't it? You know, so it's kind of hard to rank it above that, but it did feel like it's probably I don't know, is it better than that? I think it is a better goal than that in terms of, it's just one touch walking onto it, the chip and everything else. I think it's probably a better goal, but I think the cup final one, it's hard to not say that's number one for him. So yeah, it's a tough one for me. But I would go with the one last night as the better just goal as a standalone thing.
I'm going to go for the cup final one. I'm going to go for the cup final goal. But last night was a better team goal.
Yeah.
I think that there's a bit of a difference there. I'll bring up one last comment. Are Acsom contractually obliged to read out a Jungle Line comment? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It's or we get taken out. And that's we will get found. We'll get found in a wood if we do not read a Jungle Line comment out. Lads, that's been a great hour. Thank you very much, Quinny. You've made this very, very easy for me. At one point, I thought I was going to need to fly solo for an hour, which when I woke up this morning, it filled me with fear and dread. But thank God you turned up, and thank God for the listeners that you turned up. Quinny, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, at Quinny 3001 for social media stuff, but for Celtic, it's Celts here on YouTube. I've got my breakdown of the game last night, just kind of uploading it now, so probably out in about an hour or so, give or take. So if you want to be breakdown on that, then Celts here, all one word.
I will be watching that later on once I've finished my work. Right, lads, thank you everybody in the comments. Thanks a lot, and remember, dinna be bams to each other. Hail, hail.
One hoop.